It's an interesting thing. I never made a decision that I was going to stay single all my life. I always thought that I'd probably get married and have a family, but for some reason that never happened. And so kind of turned out that I'm kind of married to the church. I think our Catholic brothers and sisters have something there. Like the Apostle Paul, too, when he says that it's good not to be married because then you can dedicate more of your energy to the church. Well, like I said, that was never my intention, but as it's worked out that way, it's actually been a pretty good thing. When I graduated from college, I was really not sure what I wanted to do. I had a degree in music education, and I really didn't want to teach. I was working at a church and doing music. This has been a good while ago, and I was involved in a small church. They had a church choir, and I was the song leader. And it was interesting, and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't something I was considering for a career because, well, it just kind of seemed like the church music program was one of those things that you made really good so that people from other churches, if they visited your church, they'd go, wow, this is very cool. And then wherever they were going, they'd say, hey, I like this better, so I'm going to come over here. And it just didn't seem to me like a worthy goal for a church music program, just to shuffle people around between churches. And I really had a heart that what we did should bring people who didn't know God into a relationship with God. Then I heard about Willow Creek Community Church, and I heard that they did rock music and drama. And I wasn't even sure whether I liked the idea. Isn't that crazy, the idea of rock music in church? Well, back then it was. Now everybody knows it. Now it's commonplace, but then it wasn't. And I didn't know what I thought about it at all. So I went out and visited, and what I saw absolutely blew me away. The quality of what I was seeing was incredible. The music, the drama, the pastor's message, everything came together to bring a single message, a focused message, and that message toward the person who didn't grow up in church, or maybe he grew up in church and was turned off by church. This was an experience where people could see what God is all about in their language. They were doing rock music, they were doing country music, they were doing top 40 hits off the radio. And they were doing it not just to appeal to the culture. I mean, anybody can sacrifice their principles to get popular. They weren't doing that. They were focusing on what people who didn't have a relationship with church needed to be able to see God clearly in their own language. And that totally intrigued me. So I went to a church in Peoria, Illinois, which had the same philosophy and the same format that Willow had. And for 8 years, we did incredible ministry there. I loved putting together what was basically a Broadway show every week. Music and drama toward a message, multimedia presentations, videos. A lot of them we put together ourselves. A lot of them you can find commercially on the internet. What a wonderful thing. And people were coming to know Christ. And this had been my dream that I didn't even know to look for. It was such a wonderful thing. When I moved to Indianola, Iowa, the focus changed a bit. See, up to that point, we had been a seeker-targeted church. And worship was something we did on Wednesday night. the Sunday morning service was really not a worship service. It was tailored for the unbeliever. Now, at Indianola, it was what we would call seeker-sensitive worship. So for the past 8.5 years, I've had the privilege of being involved in a program that appealed to our generation with worship, kind of like the Saddleback model, Saddleback Church in California. At about the same time that Willow Creek was getting their start, Saddleback was as well. And it was a similar philosophy in that they were wanting to appeal to people who had no use for church in their language, through their culture. The church in Indianola was much more like the Saddleback model. And so I've had the privilege of being involved in both. So as I look forward to the future, and I wonder where God would lead, wonder who God is preparing for me, what ministry He would have me join with for the next phase in my journey and the next phase in that ministry's journey. I can only be excited with what God has in mind. And who knows? I've always been surprised. He always does more than I could ever imagine. And I find myself being able to be involved in things that I never thought I could be involved in. So how can I but be excited about this next phase in my life, this next phase in God's purposes in my life? I truly look forward to it.